The silent invasion. The first signals came on a Tuesday. Nothing dramatic, just anomalous energy readings from Jupiter's orbit that made the scientists at SETI raise their eyebrows. By Wednesday, every major observatory on Earth had repositioned their equipment toward the outer solar system. By Thursday, governments worldwide were holding emergency sessions, and by Friday, humanity collectively held its breath as the largest fleet of vessels ever witnessed emerged from what appeared to be a tear in space itself. Commander Elena Sorokin stood on the observation deck of the International Space Station, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. The vessels, if that's what they were, defied conventional understanding. They moved with the grace of living organisms, their hulls rippling like liquid metal under the distant sun's light. "How many?" she asked, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Lieutenant Wade adjusted the scanners. "We're counting 347 major vessels and countless smaller ones. The largest is approximately 8.7 kilometers in length." Elena nodded, her reflection in the viewport betraying none of the fear she felt. Humanity had spent centuries wondering if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer in the most dramatic way possible. The communication came 48 hours after their arrival. It bypassed every encryption, appearing simultaneously on every digital device on Earth, from military command centers to children's tablets in remote villages. The message was simple: "We seek sanctuary. We are the last." What followed was chaos. World leaders gathered at the United Nations, while military forces worldwide went to high alert. Social media exploded with theories ranging from imminent invasion to divine intervention. Religious leaders called for calm while simultaneously preparing their followers for apocalypse. At NASA headquarters in Houston, Dr. Marcus Chen stared at the language analysis running across his screen. "It's perfect," he murmured. "Too perfect." "What do you mean?" asked the director, leaning over his shoulder. "The message isn't just in English. It's in every human language simultaneously, all 7,139 recognized languages, including several that have fewer than a dozen living speakers. Even the dead languages, Latin, Ancient Greek, Sanskrit, they're all represented. It's as if they've been studying us for centuries." The next message came as Earth's Unified Council prepared their response. "We will send representatives. Prepare a reception area. We mean no harm." The landing site chosen was the Great Plains of North America, remote enough to contain any threat, but accessible enough for the world's leaders to gather. As the alien shuttle descended through the atmosphere, it left no heat signature, no sonic boom, just a gentle displacement of air as it settled onto the prairie grass. Elena Sorokin, now recalled from the ISS to lead the first contact team, approached the vessel with a mixture of terror and awe. Behind her stood representatives from every major nation, an honor guard of soldiers from a dozen countries, and scientists eagerly recording every moment. The vessel opened like a blooming flower, its petals revealing a delegation of beings that seemed almost human, if humans had evolved under different gravitational conditions. They were tall, slender, with skin that shifted colors subtly as they moved. Their eyes were large, reflective pools that seemed to take in everything at once. One stepped forward, its movements fluid and graceful. "I am Kelthorin, speaker for the Remnant. We thank you for receiving us." Elena stepped forward, heart pounding. "I am Commander Elena Sorokin, representing Earth. We welcome you and seek to understand your arrival." Kelthorin bowed slightly. "Understanding is what we seek as well. We are refugees, Commander. The last survivors of a civilization that spanned 1,000 worlds across 3 spiral arms of our galaxy." The revelation sent murmurs through the gathered humans. 1,000 worlds. Earth had barely managed to establish a permanent presence on its own moon. "What happened to your people?" Elena asked. The alien skin darkened to a deep blue. "We were consumed. Not by war as you might understand it, not by disease or natural disaster. Something else. a presence that devours not just life, but reality itself. In the days that followed, the aliens, calling themselves the Exarathi, shared their story. They described a vast civilization that had achieved technological marvels beyond human comprehension. They had mastered faster-than-light travel, harnessed the energy of stars, and created artificial worlds orbiting gas giants throughout their territory. Then came what they called the Silence. Worlds on the outer reaches of their territory simply ceased all communication. Investigative fleets found nothing but empty space where thriving colonies had once existed, not destroyed, erased, as if they had never been there at all. The Silence spread inward, consuming world after world. The Exarathi fought with weapons that could crack planets and rearrange solar systems, but nothing stopped the advance. In desperation, they gathered their remaining population onto Orcs and fled across the galaxy. "Why Earth?" asked the Secretary General during one briefing. "Your technology is clearly far beyond ours. What protection can we offer that you cannot provide yourselves?" Kelforan's answer was puzzling. "You are unexpected. In our observations of your species, we have seen something unique, something we lost long ago." The alien refused to elaborate further, leaving Earth's leaders frustrated and suspicious. Dr. Amara Okafor, head of xenobiology at the United Nations Scientific Council, worked tirelessly to understand the physiology of their visitors. "Their cellular structure is fascinating," she explained to Elena during a late-night session. "It appears they can adapt to almost any environment by restructuring their molecular composition. They're essentially perfect biological machines." "Too perfect?" Elena asked, echoing Dr. Chen's earlier observation. Amara nodded slowly. "Yes, and there's something else. Their genetic diversity is remarkably low. If they truly are the survivors of a vast civilization, we should see more variation." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. 13-year-old Mei Lin, daughter of one of the Chinese delegates, had been permitted to observe one of the cultural exchange sessions. While the adults discussed philosophy and history, Mei approached one of the younger Exarathi with a simple question. "Are you afraid of the dark too?" The alien child's skin paled to almost white. Its guardian quickly intervened, but not before Elena, observing nearby, saw the reaction. That night, she gathered a small team of trusted advisors. "They're hiding something," she said simply. "I want to know what." The team worked in secret, analyzing every interaction, every piece of data shared by the visitors. They found inconsistencies in the Exarathi's story, subtle contradictions about timelines, the nature of the Silence, even the structure of their former society. Meanwhile, Earth's governments debated the request for sanctuary. Some nations welcomed the idea, seeing the potential benefits of the advanced technology the Exarathi might share. Others feared a trap, pointing out that the aliens had yet to demonstrate the threat they claimed was pursuing them. The turning point came when Dr. Chen's team finally decoded the alien language matrix, not the perfect translator they used publicly, but their actual native communication. Hidden within seemingly innocuous exchanges were layers of meaning the aliens never intended humans to understand. "They're not running from something," Chen reported grimly to the Emergency Council. "They're bringing it with them." Elena stared at the evidence before her, the blood draining from her face. The Exarathi fleet wasn't an ark of refugee ships. It was a lure, a beacon designed to attract attention. And Earth, with its billions of inhabitants, was not being offered as sanctuary. It was being offered as sacrifice. As the Council processed this horrifying revelation, a new message appeared across global communications. "We have waited long enough. Your decision is required. Will you stand with the Exarathi against the darkness, or will you perish alone?" The ultimatum hung in the air as humanity faced its greatest challenge, not just for survival, but for the very nature of what it meant to be human in a universe suddenly much larger and more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Humanity's answer. When the Exarathi ultimatum reached the Emergency Council, silence fell over the assembled leaders. The evidence before them painted a damning picture. The aliens were not refugees seeking shelter. They were desperate survivors using Earth as bait to divert the cosmic horror that hunted them. General Ibrahim Hassan was the first to speak, his weathered face grim. "We should strike now, while we have the advantage of surprise. Their main fleet is still beyond Mars orbit." "With what weapons?" countered the Indian Prime Minister. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours. We've seen their defensive capabilities. Our nuclear arsenal would be as effective as throwing stones." Alina Sorokin listened to the debate rage, her mind working through possibilities. Something about the HFY story still didn't add up. If they were simply sacrificing Earth, why the elaborate deception? Why not simply hide in the shadow of the solar system and let the silence find humanity on its own? She turned to Dr. Amara Okafor. "You said their genetic diversity was too low for survivors of a vast civilization." Amara nodded. "It's as if they're all closely related, almost clones, with minor variations." A chill ran down Alina's spine. "What if they're not the survivors?" she whispered. "What if they're what's left of the predators?" The theory spread like wildfire through the council. Dr. Chen's team worked feverishly to analyze all contact with the HFY, searching for evidence. What they found confirmed their worst fears. The HFY weren't fleeing from the silence. They were vessels for it, infected carriers of a cosmic parasite that consumed consciousness itself. "It's a form of sentient dark energy," explained physicist Dr. Rajiv Mehta. "It doesn't just destroy worlds, it absorbs them, converting matter into more of itself. The HFY we see are like shells, preserved to serve as ambassadors to find new feeding grounds." The revelation should have broken humanity's spirit. Instead, something remarkable happened. Faced with an enemy that had apparently consumed an entire advanced civilization, humanity didn't cower. They plotted. "If this entity feeds on consciousness and matter," said Alina during an emergency session, "then it must obey some laws of physics, even if they're laws we don't fully understand yet." Dr. Chen nodded. "The HFY records we've decoded suggest this entity struggles with certain wavelengths of energy. It's why they preserve some hosts. They need organic interfaces to interact with environments rich in those wavelengths." "Like Earth," murmured Alina. "Exactly. Our planet's magnetic field, atmosphere, and biological diversity create a unique energy signature. It's probably what attracted them in the first place. We're a particularly rich feeding ground." What followed was the most ambitious scientific undertaking in human history. With the clock ticking and the HFY growing impatient for Earth's answer, teams worldwide worked to develop a defense against something they barely understood. The Japanese quantum computing team made the first breakthrough, a method to detect the unique energy signature of the parasite. Australian and South African scientists followed with a prototype that could generate opposing wavelengths. Engineers from Brazil and Germany worked to scale the technology globally. Meanwhile, Alina led a diplomatic team to stall the HFY, pretending to consider their ultimatum while probing for weaknesses. "We need to understand what we're agreeing to," she told Kelforan. "Our species has a long history of being exploited through poor agreements." The alien's skin rippled with what might have been amusement, a prudent concern. "Perhaps a demonstration would help you understand what you face." The demonstration came in the form of a gift, a small HFY vessel that descended to Antarctica, far from major population centers. Scientists and military personnel approached it cautiously, their new detection equipment humming. What happened next was recorded from orbit. The vessel suddenly collapsed in on itself, creating a perfect sphere of absolute darkness. When it expanded moments later, everything within a kilometer radius, ice, research equipment, personnel, was simply gone. Not destroyed, erased, leaving perfectly smooth ice where the research station had stood. The message was clear: resist, and this would be Earth's fate. Earth's response came 3 days later. Alina, now appointed as humanity's official representative, met with Kelthorin on neutral ground, a platform constructed in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. "We have made our decision," she stated firmly. "Humanity will stand with the Exarathi against the darkness." The alien's skin brightened with satisfaction. "You have chosen wisely. Prepare your world for transition. The process will be." However, Alina interrupted, "We will do so on our terms." Before Kelthorin could respond, the platform lit up with energy as the global defense network activated. Satellites positioned around Earth focused concentrated beams on precise coordinates throughout the solar system, targeting each Exarathi vessel with a counter-resonance technology. The alien's form shuddered violently. "What? What have you done?" Its voice distorted, layers of other voices emerging beneath the familiar tones. "We've isolated the parasite's frequency," Alina explained calmly. "Right now, every Exarathi vessel in our system is being bathed in targeted energy that disrupts your connection to your host." Around the world, the defense network hummed with power. It wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It didn't destroy. Instead, it created a barrier the parasite couldn't penetrate, like light cutting through darkness. Kelthorin's form began to flicker between its familiar humanoid shape and something else, something that defied description, a writhing darkness with too many dimensions. "You cannot stop us," it hissed, its voice now completely alien. "We have consumed civilizations that would view yours as insects. Your resistance is temporary." Alina stood her ground. "Perhaps, but there's something you should understand about humans. We've spent our entire evolutionary history being hunted by things bigger and stronger than ourselves. Being prey is written into our DNA, and so is overcoming it." The defense network reached full power. Around Earth, Exarathi vessels began to withdraw, pulling back beyond the energy field's reach. Some didn't make it, their forms dissolving as the parasite within them lost cohesion, releasing whatever remained of their original consciousness. "This isn't a victory," Alina continued. "It's a beginning. You thought we would be easy prey because we're young, because we still fight among ourselves, because we haven't mastered the technologies your previous victims had." She leaned closer to the struggling alien form. "But that's your fundamental misunderstanding of humanity. We don't need to be united to be strong. We don't need to be perfect to survive. What makes us different, what makes us human, is that we thrive on adversity. We grow stronger when challenged. And now, thanks to you, we have the greatest challenge we've ever faced." The entity that had been Kelthorin convulsed one final time before collapsing into itself, leaving nothing but empty space where it had stood. Throughout the solar system, the Exarathi fleet retreated, jumping to faster-than-light speeds and vanishing from human detection. The celebration on Earth was tempered by the knowledge that they had not destroyed the threat, merely driven it back. The parasite entity would return, perhaps with new tactics, new hosts, new methods of attack. But humanity would be ready. In the year that followed, the technology developed to fight the Exarathi transformed human society. The energy manipulation techniques led to new power sources. The unified defense network became the foundation for humanity's first true global governance. The recovered alien technology accelerated Earth's space program by decades. 5 years later, Alina stood on the observation deck of the first human colony ship, preparing to depart for Proxima Centauri. Earth was no longer alone and vulnerable. It was the center of a rapidly expanding sphere of human influence, with outposts throughout the solar system and ambitious plans beyond. "Do you think they'll come back?" asked Dr. Chen, now her second-in-command for the colonization mission. Alina nodded, watching as Earth grew smaller in the viewport. "They will. But next time, we won't be waiting for them to find us." Chen smiled. "The hunters become the hunted." "No," Alina corrected him. "We're not becoming like them. We're becoming more like ourselves, explorers, innovators, survivors. That's what they never understood about humanity. Our strength isn't in our technology or our unity. It's in our diversity, our adaptability, our stubborn refusal to accept defeat. As the colony ship accelerated toward humanity's first step into the greater galaxy, Elena couldn't help but wonder if the parasite entity was watching, perhaps for the first time experiencing something it had never known in all its eons of existence. Fear. Fear of the species that had done what no other could, stood its ground against the darkness and pushed back. Fear of humanity.